Out, it's so good to see I'm not the only dad who's missing. Do you realize that the Australians kicked off with the Springboks? No. Very pleased to see some dads here. I'm not going to ask the question, how many dads are here simply because they were too scared not to come? Any? There's an honest dad. I was doing a talk at a prenatal class, and I told this joke. I said, what's the difference between a pregnant woman and a terrorist? Anyone know? You can generally negotiate with a terrorist. But I told this joke, it was actually at Heather Wood's place, and one of the guys got into such trouble. He laughed, and on the car the whole way back, he got it in the ear, laughed too loud. But I had the privilege of talking about fatherhood today, and I'm kind of at a different end of the spectrum to what most of you guys are here. My kids are about 24, my son is 24, my daughter's 21. I put her on a plane a couple of months ago to fly off to Phnom Penh to teach English, and I must be honest, I got back to the car and I cried. It was such an emotional moment, just saying, the empty nest syndrome. But it's a great privilege to talk about father. I've had many defining moments in my journey as a dad, and one of the key moments, which I want to start off with, was when my daughter was 3 years old. Doctors said to us that she would need an operation to her heart. One of the walls of her heart had a slight hole. So I said to the doc, please can I just come into the theater and hold her in my arms as she goes under anesthetic? And then can I be there when she comes around, just to minimize her trauma? Those of you parents will know that when your kid hurts, you hurt more. Someone once said that being a father to a daughter is like having your heart walking around in someone else's body. And it's very true. So the doc very kindly allowed me to come in, and I went into theater and I held her. He actually allowed me to put the gas mask over her face that took her underneath. Operation was a great success. Instead of being an open heart surgery, which it used to be many years ago, it was a catheter that they pop into the vein. It goes up into the heart. This little very expensive device pops out and it closes the hole, and the next day she's out. Operation, great success. 3 weeks later, we're at my house, and I had a few friends around and family, and we're standing on my lawn in this circle, and my daughter's next to me, and one of my friends said to Blythe, I believe you were in hospital recently. And these were her words. She said, yes, my heart was broken. She said, but my daddy fixed it. Oh, I was man down. I had to excuse myself and kind of come back and just regain but it was one of those moments where she gave me such a tremendous gift. She gave me the gift of realizing that this little girl saw me as the man who was her hero. I could do anything, fix anything. I was the man who held her heart in my hands, and it came out safe. And I realized that for the next 18 years, in many ways, I would be holding her heart in my hands. And I asked myself the question, am I the man that she needs me to be and wants me to be? And to be honest, the answer was, yes, in some ways I am, but in some ways there's some work to do. There's work in progress. And I began to realize that being a parent, and this applies to men and women, being a mom and being a dad means it's a parallel journey. It means becoming the man that your child needs you to be so that you can raise your daughters to become women and your boys to become men. Same applies to a woman. It's about being the woman, being and becoming the woman. Let's be honest here, no one arrived at adulthood completely unscathed. Every one of us arrived as a man and a woman at adulthood with some kind of wounding. The primary role model for your child is the same gender parent. A boy looks to his father to model masculinity and fatherhood to him. A little girl looks to her mom to model womanhood and femininity to her. They look to us. I'm here to talk about fatherhood, so we're not going to go into both areas, but being a dad means you need to understand what it is that drives your masculine soul, what's wounded your masculine soul, and how that impacts your ability to be a father, to be that man that they think that they need. It also means understanding what drives your daughter's heart and what drives your son's heart, so that you can answer the questions. The questions that boys bring to their fathers that they cannot be answered by their moms. Masculinity is imparted by a man to a boy. There are also questions that your daughter will bring to a man that the mom can't answer either. And that's why both parents are so absolutely crucial. Men and women, equal but stunningly different. You think about this amazing fact. Every one of us is here in this room because of this beautiful dance between the masculine and feminine. It's one way of putting it, a dance. Okay? We're here because our parents got together and danced, and it continues. The beauty continues when the masculine and the feminine work together to co-create this beautiful world. So what is it that drives the masculine heart? John Eldridge is a wonderful author. He wrote a book called Wild at Heart, and in it he talks about three things that drive the masculine soul. He says every man at the core wants a battle to fight. That's why it's so hard for us to be here, not at the rugby. A battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to pursue and rescue. You think about all the movies that men have made famous. I don't know about you guys, but for me, often when I choose a video to watch with my wife, it's not an easy process. What do I want? I want Rocky, Rambo, Die Hard, 1, 2, 3, 4, however many. What does she want? She wants letters from who cares and somebody's diary. I mean, there's a very big difference between what we want and desire as women. So if you look at those movies that men have made famous, every one of them have 3 components. They have the evil guy, the battle that needs to be fought, something that we need to fight against. Wonderful, we want the battle. It has the adventure, the car chase, the wildness, the mayhem, and it also has the beauty, doesn't it? I mean, the reason we're doing all this stuff. That's the reason you guys are here and the trouble you are, the beauty that you pursued and caught, and this is the result of it. But it's a beautiful thing. When my son turned 11, I said to him, Luke, what do you want to do for your birthday? Write down a list of what you want to do. We can do anything as long as it doesn't cost too much. So he comes up with this list. He says, Dad, firstly, I want to invite all my friends around, and we want to wrestle with you. I thought, fantastic, I'm in for a great weekend. Second, we want to have an arm wrestling competition. Thirdly, we want to play some rugby. Fourthly, Dad, can we buy some firecrackers? But I don't want to just let them off. Do you mind if we blow something up, Dad? You know? Then he wanted to have a braai, cook some meat, and then he wanted to play PlayStation the whole night. And I said to Luke, where does this come from? Innate in the guy is this desire, battle to fight, adventure to live, and beauty to pursue. There were no girls at the time, but that came a bit later. How many of you guys, I mean, I've seen this with my own eyes, a bunch of boys on their BMXs after school, and they're sitting chilling, and some testosterone-fueled thing switches in their brain. And the one boy says, I wonder what would happen, or what it would be like if we ride our bikes into that brick wall over there. So the guys say, let's do that. And they all line up, and they all, and there's broken bikes, and there's bruising and blood. And you know what's interesting? If I ask the guys in this audience, do you get that? I get it. I mean, the guys will say, yeah, we get it. In fact, some of them are thinking about their bicycle when they get home. I mean, we get this as men. You ask the average woman, do you get that? It's like, whoa, no. They're busy phoning the psychiatrist to try and get, at least get an order of Ritalin so they can deal with the damage control. What is wrong with my son? What is it that's going on? But we wired differently. Battle to fight. Adventure to live, and a beauty to pursue. You watch a bunch of guys around the braai. They're not talking about, Joe broke up with Sue, and I wonder how. This is not the stuff we talk about. We're talking about the rugby and the time Joe Nettie got shot. Oh, that was so funny. Well, Joe's in hospital. Yeah, I'm going to go sign his cast. I mean, we talk about different stuff. Battle, adventure, beauty. And what happens as a result of this, every boy grows up, and he's got a question on his heart. And he brings the question to his dad. Not the mom. You think about a mom. What does a mom call her son? Sweetheart, honey, boogaloo, baby. There's words, and it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Many men who have died on the field of battle, the last thing they cried out for is their mom. That nurture is beautiful and it's necessary. But there comes a time in a boy's life where he doesn't want to be called sweetie or baby. He wants to be called tiger, demon, wild man. And he goes to the father for that. The father's the one who gives him that answer. When a boy wants to climb a tree, let's be honest, when a mom is cold, Johnny's got to wear a jersey, doesn't he? When a mom's hungry, Johnny's got to eat, but damn it, because he should be hungry, even if he's not hungry. When a little boy wants to climb up a tree, a very high tree, what does mom say? No, don't do that. You're going to damage yourself. What does the dad say? Oh, boy, come. I'll catch you. If I miss, I'll take you to hospital. There's a different kind of, and the boy comes to the father with this question. And the question is this. The question is, Dad, and it's such a crucial one. And if we miss this as fathers, we miss so much. He says, do I have what it takes? I'm going to need to fight a battle. I'm going to need to pursue a beauty. I'm going to need to live an adventure, a story bigger than myself. And Dad, do I have what it takes? Please will you answer that question? And he brings it to the father. I don't have time to go into the whole depth of the female soul, thank goodness, because we need a longer time. It's a beautiful, complex thing. But girls ask a slightly different question of their dad. I remember when we lived in Knysna, my kids must have been about 12 and 9, and I used to come home from work. My son Luke used to come barreling out the door, running, grab me, tackle me, And I look back on it now and I realize he was asking me the question, Dad, check at me, look at me, am I strong? I'm strong, Dad, aren't I? And the way I responded to him was to say, yes, you are, you're strong, wow. That day when a young boy actually, makes his dad slightly bleed, he might be scared, but it's like, oh, yes, I've got it, The younger boys need to know they're powerful. My daughter, on the other hand, she's quite a tomboy. She used to sometimes go running out and jump on me. But sometimes and often she used to stay inside the house. And I used to have to go and find her. And I'd find her sitting coyly in a corner. And she'd be sitting there. And what she was doing, she was waiting for Dad to come and find her, to pursue her, to seek out her heart, to say, my honey, you're beautiful. I found you. You're lovely. I love you. It's a seeking out. So the question a girl brings to her father is slightly different. Is, Dad, am I worth pursuing? Am I beautiful? Do I have a beauty and a loveliness to offer the world? Just a quick aside on the thing of beauty. A while ago, I was sitting having a dinner, in fact, a breakfast meeting at a restaurant here in Cape Town, and I had a shirt on that said, "Real man, real dad." And as I got up to go, this elderly woman reached out and called me over, and she said, "Young man," I loved her for that. She said, "Young man," she said, "tell me about this shirt." And I looked at her, and I found out she's a 95-year-old woman having breakfast with all the female members of her family, celebrating her birthday. And as I listened to this woman, I was mesmerized by her beauty. Now, that sounds strange. Her physical beauty had faded, but she had that grace, dignity, love, femininity, beauty, love, that kind of glue that women bring that just hold the world together, that make it all worth living. And that's the kind of beauty that us as fathers need to seek out in our daughters, validate and affirm, and romance. So the question a girl brings to her dad is, "Dad, am I lovely? Am I worth pursuing? Do I have a beauty that's worth offering the world?" And we have to say unreservedly yes. The problem is most of us grow up and our questions haven't been answered. John Eldridge in his book says every single boy in his journey to become a man takes an arrow in the center of his heart, in the place of his strength. And he says because that wound is very rarely discussed even, and even more rarely healed, most men carry a wound. And the wounds that we carry as men, we carry into our lives. We respond in one of three ways. Most men pose, let's be honest. Most men have a swag. When it comes to men walking past a bunch of women, what do? We walk differently. Something happens. I remember a while ago, I was jogging along the promenade here in Cape Town. I'm jogging and my knee started giving me a real problem. So I ended up limping in my jogging gear. And I saw these two very attractive women jogging towards me. I mean, without even a split, without even any conscious thought, I was running. Sore knee, I'm running. And I'm thinking, Craig, what an idiot. Why are you running past these, And I realized I have to be the man. I've got to play. I mean, all of us do that. When your wife's car starts making a funny sound, what do? We say, oh, yeah, that's the flange regulator. We've got no idea what the flange, we watched a bit of Top Gear last night, and we heard this, if I had the equipment, I'd fix it, but we better go to the guys. We pose, man, we swag. The second thing we do as men is we fail to use our strength. The world is full of men who fail to use their strength. We've got a fatherless crisis across the world. The UN recently said that the single biggest social problem of our world is fatherlessness. International. South Africa is even worse. Men are failing to step up. What do? We withdraw into all kinds of addictions. Sex, drugs, alcohol, workaholism, sport, etc. We withdraw into it. Gaming has become a huge thing for young men. And in gaming, what is in gaming? Gaming, there is adventure, there's beauty, and there's battle. But it's virtual, it's not real. The third thing we do as men is we misuse our strength. We see this all around. We see it in corporations. We see it in churches. We see men misusing their strength. I recently did a father-son thing, and we on Jeep. And we went to this park, which is a very complicated course. And there's a guy who instructs us how to get through this course, because it looks like you can't do it. And he said to me an interesting thing. He said, Craig, women do this better than men. I said, no, that offended my male ego. I said, why? He said, one reason. He said, they listen. When men come there in their Jeeps, and they see this course, this guy's got huge experience. It becomes white noise. They switch out. I've got this. I'm a man. I can do this. Women come there, they realize, I don't know how to do this. So they listen and they hear. There's this thing where men have just got this. Now, here's the crux. When we become a father, and when you ladies become a mother, we've got to ask ourselves the question, am I bringing the wounded, needy boy who didn't have his question answered to the party, to the bedroom, to the boardroom, to my life, to my relationship, to my fatherhood? Or am I bringing the strong, wise man? Big question. As a woman too. Am I bringing the needy girl who needs all this affirmation and love? Or am I bringing the strong woman? Because as parents, we need to step up to the plate and bring our A game. The strong, wise man and the beautiful, gracious, strong, wise woman to our parenthood and to our relationship. I want to talk about 4 quick things that every man needs to do for his child. And they're contained in detail in the book I wrote. I wrote about the 12 dad verbs, 12 things that every father needs to know, understand, and practice as he becomes a father. The first thing is we need to see our children, to call them out. Every single one of us in this place and in the world has a deep desire to be seen and known, don't we? People often fall in love with the very first person who sees them. Imagine the scenario. You're at home chilling and you hear the doorbell ring and you go and you answer the door and there's this apparition before you. It's this dude with dreadlocks, not the cool kind, the kind that insects have taken up residence in. And he's got this cloud of smoke around him and it's not a legal cloud. And there's a Harley there and he's got a rock and roll t-shirt and he says to you, hey dude, and already at that point, if you had a gun, you'd probably use it. Hey dude, I'm here to see your daughter. And you think, no, you're not here to see my daughter. Next door, And then you hear the sweet little voice behind you saying, hi, Dad, that's Brad. He's here to see me. And your whole world crumbles down. And you take your daughter aside and you say, what the, And she says, Dad, he really gets me. And we've seen this, eh? Now, you as a father and you as a mother need to be the first adult who gets your child, gets them. If you're a rugby-loving, Rambo-type guy and your son is trying out for the ballet squad, you need to see that and love it. The cookie-cutter dad comes with what he wants and he puts it on his kid. The dad who's able to be a good dad sees who his son and who his daughter is. Know what makes your daughter's heart come alive. Know what her fears, her passions, know that. The second thing we need to do is we need to validate. So you've seen them, now you're saying, I've seen you, and what I see is good. Barack Obama said most men spend their entire lives seeking the approval of their father or trying desperately not to be like their dad. This thing of a father's approval is so crucial. In that movie, Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams, there's a story of this young kid who wanted to be an actor, but his dad wanted him to be a businessman. And his dad refused to accept the fact that he wanted to act. He got into the school play, and he was so proud, he invited his dad. Not only did his dad not come, but his dad refused to allow him to act in the play. I don't know if you know the story, but he ends up committing suicide. So there's a child who was not validated by his father. His father wanted him to be someone else, didn't see who he was. Here's the bottom line. It doesn't matter if your daughter becomes a fighter pilot or your son becomes a lead act in a ballet troupe. What matters is, do they have your blessing and your approval? I guarantee sitting here in the audience are many of us who haven't had that. Haven't had that blessing of your father. Who you are is good. The world's a better place because you are. Your choices are good. I love you. You have my blessing. It's like a cloak you give your child. The third thing we need to do as fathers is to create the environment in which they can flourish. The sanctuary. Think about a seed. A seed's a beautiful thing because contained in that seed is the ability to be a massive tree. But what you do with that seed determines whether or not it becomes a tree. Many of you have walked past the waterfront here in Cape Town, where I had my jogging incident, and you see those trees that have grown sideways. You've seen them. They're not very tall, they're not very strong, and they're very sideways. Now think of your child like that, the child that comes into your life. It's a seed containing huge potential. Whether or not it reaches that potential is determined by the environment you create for it. Sigmund Freud said he can think of no greater need in childhood than the protection of a father. The protection of a father. As a father, you're the architect of your own home. The kind of environment you create determines how high your kid grows. Kids survive. We don't want kids to survive, do we? We want them to thrive and reach their full potential. The fourth thing that we need to do for our children is to equip them for life. Your job and my job as a parent is to equip our kids so that they no longer need us. They can fly off. But the beauty is if you do it well, they'll always want to come back. They'll always want to be with you. And part of equipping them, there are a number of things I mentioned in the book too. Number one is to teach them. You're going to outsource the teaching of your kids, the education of your kids, to educational institutions, nursery school, primary schools, etc. And that's fantastic. Probably very good, and that we don't do it ourselves, given how education's come along. You're going to outsource training of your kids, how to play a flute, how to play tennis, etc., to coaches. But there's one thing you can never outsource, and that's teaching them how to live life. EQ, emotional intelligence, absolutely crucial. You have to teach your kids that. But how many kids would have been spared a huge amount of humiliation if their kids had just trained them properly and they went to idols and they thought they could sing and they really couldn't sing? If we would just train them, validated them correctly and properly, train them in what it means to live life. Action and consequence, discipline, the need for discipline. Part of equipping your child is setting clear boundaries for them, disciplining them. Kids flourish and thrive when you set boundaries. A lot of parents make the mistake of, I'm going to be my child's friend. Friends is a very distant second to parent. Parenting means making tough decisions, putting in place strong boundaries. So we need to equip our kids so that they can be launched into life. To do that, we need to model the way for them. One of the biggest challenges of a father is you need to be the man you want your daughter to marry, and you need to be the man that you want your son to become. That's a big challenge. There's a lovely story about a man sitting in a pub in England, having his pint at his usual hour on his usual table and usual chair, and he feels a tug at his elbow, and he turns around, there's his son. He says, "Son, how did you find me?" 5-year-old son. And he said, "Dad, it's very easy. I just followed your footprints in the snow." Our kids are not going to listen to what we say. They're going to listen to what we do. You want your kids to be disciplined? Be disciplined. You cannot be saying, "You really mustn't smoke. It's bad." You can't do that. I want to end with this last thing, the two most important words in a dad's lexicon. When we moved to Knysna from Johannesburg many years back, we're back again now. my family had to leave 2 weeks before me. I had some things that I needed to finish up. And my daughter was 7 years old at the time. And halfway through this 2-week period, they were in Knysna, I was in Joburg. I was on the phone to my daughter Blythe. And I said to her, isn't it beautiful living in Knysna? And these were her words to me. She said, if this was my life, I would scream. And I said, my precious, why? And she said, because you're not here, Daddy. And I realized there and then that the two most important words in a father's lexicon are be there. Be there. A lot of what we do as parents is instinctive, and that's great, but you cannot do it if you're not there. Be there when they're young, when they're old. Be there when they're happy, when they're sad. Be there for the significant events. Be there for the insignificant events. Be there whenever you possibly can. Thank you very much.